Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We're going to get the call started here in just a second. So, again, we want to thank you all for being on the call with us, and we're going to get started here in just a second. Thank you. Again, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started here in just a moment, but want to refer everyone to our website, coronavirus.dc.gov, for the most up-to-date information and resources, and we'll get the call started here in just a moment. Thank you all so much for being on with us this evening. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Tomas Almonte, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Bowser. We want to thank you for joining us for this evening's Community Leader Call. We'll provide updates on the response and recovery efforts related to COVID-19. Again, want to remind everyone, if you have questions, please press 0 and you'll be added into our question queue. We do ask for you to hold until we get to our speaking program to begin to press 0 to ask questions, but when you're ready to ask your question, you'll press 0. And want to point everyone to the website for the most up-to-date information and resources. That's coronavirus.dc.gov. So we will begin with Mayor Bowser. So Mayor Bowser, go ahead.
Thank you, Tomas, and thanks to everyone who joined the call today. I briefed earlier in a press conference and community address about a new mayor's order I signed today to extend the public health emergency through May 15th. The order includes new health and safety requirements that will help us protect the district's most vulnerable populations. It also clarifies that masks are required for hotel workers, guests, and visitors, individuals using taxis, ride shares, private transportation providers, workers and customers of food sellers, and that masks are strongly encouraged for workers and individuals using public transportation. We are particularly concerned about COVID-19 mortality rates for African Americans, and this mayor's order puts in place a mechanism for proactively reaching out to people in our community before they get sick. This pandemic is putting a spotlight on generations worth of health, economic, housing, and educational disparities faced by African Americans both in our city and nationwide. But we can't wait until the pandemic is over to try to change the trajectory of health outcomes for African Americans. And as I said this morning, the bottom line is this. If we're concerned about African Americans and other vulnerable residents dying from COVID-19 in our city, everyone needs to do their part. If we want workers on the front lines to continue providing us food, everyone needs to do their part. This isn't just about vulnerable residents protecting themselves. This is about every individual being a part of the solution. So based on the data we've been reporting, the number of infections is less than what we thought they could have been based on our modeling today. And that is because our residents and businesses are making tremendous sacrifices to flatten the curve. Because we know fighting and defeating this virus takes a citywide, region-wide, and nationwide effort. So let's keep working together to get to the other side of this. I'm happy to be on this call today to get your feedback, and thank you for your leadership and support.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll next go to Dr. Nesbitt for any points that you want. No, actually, we'll go straight to Q&A. So if you have any questions, please press 0 now. We, again, in the room, we're joined with Dr. Nesbitt, our Director of the D.C. Department of Health, Director Christopher Rodriguez with our D.C. Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And we also have with us Director Unique Morris Hughes with the Department of Employment Services. So again, if you have any questions, you can press 0 now. and we will start to go with our first question. We have a question from Shannon in Ward 8. Shannon, your line is unmuted.
Yes, I was just trying to figure out when the kids are going back to school. Are they going back to school in May or August?
Thank you for that question, Shannon. And I just finished a meeting with our public education team, and we are trying to work through every possibility for our kids. And on Friday, I plan to be able to make a statement about what we can do about our school calendar.
Thank you for that question, Shannon. We'll next go to Dr. Sammy in Ward 3. Dr. Sammy, your line is unmuted.
You know, we have a non-profit organization which is closed for 2 months and no income is coming. We have our property taxes to pay, our mortgage payments to pay, and all other expenses. Is there any help we can apply for?
Well, thank you for that question, and I hope that you were aware of our microgrants program where nonprofits could apply. We got over 7,000 applications, and my teams are going through those applications now. And I also want to encourage you to look at the SBA's program that you've been hearing a lot about, the Paycheck Protection Program, and we've gotten some feedback that many of our businesses and organizations have applied and are beginning to see those forgivable loans come through.
Great. We'll next go to Commissioner Randy Speck in ANC 4G. Commissioner, your line is unmuted.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm concerned about the opening of Beach Drive to closing of Beach Drive to cars and opening up to bicycles and pedestrians. People are not necessarily practicing social distancing there. Is there anything that the district can do in Rock Creek Park to make sure that people do continue to practice social distancing? Thank you.
Well, Randy, certainly the Park Service is monitoring that, and actually they agreed to my request to have Rock Creek Park closed on more than just the weekends on Beach Drive, and the hope is that that will actually depress demand on the weekend and spread it out during the week. But the Park Service is actively monitoring. And that closure they've agreed to through April 30th. Additionally, there's more recreation space in another parkway through Fort DuPont Park and at Anacostia Park.
Great, thank you. We'll go to our next question, but before we do, I want to remind everyone, if you do have questions, you can press 0 and you'll be added into our question queue, so please press 0 now if you've not been able to ask your question. We'll next go to Patel in Ward 2. Patel, your line is unmuted.
Good evening, Mayor Bowser. It's a pleasure to speak to you again. I actually spoke to you a few weeks ago. I am an ANC commissioner in Ward 2. I'm actually also a tipped worker. And just wanted to give you a brief update that I finally did get my unemployment. It did kick in this past week. I did, however, have to wait almost 3.5 weeks before that kicked in, and I have spoken to many of my various industry colleagues, and more than half of them still haven't gotten their unemployment, and I would like to know what is the timeline for the rest of the folks to be processed out.
I don't know when your colleagues applied, so it will be hard for me to answer that question. And I'm assuming that you were among because tip workers were among the first impacted by closures. Many tip workers were in the first groups of people who were processed and got payments. The last update I got was that more than 22,000 claimants have been processed. I know that number is higher now, and more than 62,000 people have applied. We are going to be putting out some additional guidance so that more people are getting their questions answered before they apply or before they're trying to get through to somebody to get their questions answered. We have also added more call takers for people who are calling. 70 contracted, and I have another group of D.C. government employees who are being trained this week and who will begin call taking on Friday. So it sounds like yours took 3 weeks, and we estimate, actually we know that it can take up to 3 weeks. We're trying to push that time down to get it to 14 days, and we're going to continue to work to do that.
Great. We'll go to our next question. Julie W. Julie, your line is unmuted.
Hello. Thank you so much, Mayor Bowser, for all of your leadership and everything that you're doing. My name is Julie Wong from the Korean American Association. With so many small business owners that are deemed essential in our community for Korean Americans, what we're trying to figure out is the best way for all the business owners, whether it be restaurants, grocery stores, dry cleaners, and laundromats, what is the best way for them to procure the gloves and the masks, because it's been so incredibly hard and there's already a financial strain. So is there something that you recommend to help us get the gloves and the masks for the employees so that we can distribute, because it's been impossible to find or buy?
We have a number of guidance documents that are available for businesses that are open, that are looking for guidance on how their employees can work and remain safe. That information is available on coronavirus.dc.gov, and it gives you information in terms of which employees should be using what types of items in the workplace. So again, if you go to coronavirus.dc.gov, that information is available for you.
Great. We have another question that's one of our online questions asking, I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I want to assess. What can I do?
So the Medical Reserve Corps is the place for you. So we've been very pleased with the number of individuals that we've had sign up for the Medical Reserve Corps to date. We have been able to have individuals from all backgrounds sign up for the Medical Reserve Corps. While the majority of the individuals who have signed up for the Medical Reserve Corps have been non-healthcare providers, we have had a large number of healthcare professionals, over nearly 700 sign up today, who are medical volunteers. So if you do go to our website or go to coronavirus.dc.gov or to dchealth.dc.gov, you'll find more information on how to enlist in the Medical Reserve Corps, and we will be able to activate you. So far, we've had volunteers to provide over 700 hours of support to our COVID-19 response.
Thank you, Dr. Nesbitt. We'll go next to Jennifer in Ward 5. Jennifer, your line is unmuted.
Hi, Mayor Bowser. Thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing. And thank you for closing Beach Drive to cars and closing Anacostia Park to try to reduce some of the congestion. What we're noticing in our neighborhood, since a lot of the playgrounds and play spaces have been closed, a lot of kids are playing in the streets and alleys where they may be getting hit by a car. I'm wondering if there's other plans to open large recreational spaces as the weather starts to warm up to try to remove some of the congestion from the streets, specifically spaces where social distancing can be observed, but allow places for kids to be outside.
I think if I understand your question, you're asking for more park spaces, and right now we don't have a plan to reopen our DPR parks, but there are still a lot of passive parks that don't have equipment courts in play fields and the like that continue to be usable for green space all over the district.
Great. We have a question from Gretchen Mullen. Gretchen, your line is unmuted.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. This is Gretchen McMullen. I'm calling on behalf of the Jazz and Blues program at Westminster Presbyterian in Southwest. And we have been trying to support our musicians who have lost all their income because of all the performances being canceled. And I just wanted to know what the D.C. government is doing to get the word out that musicians and other artists who are self-employed can, in fact, apply for unemployment.
Well, we continue, and we're going to be doing, I asked my team to come up with a new unemployment guide because this issue with unemployment is complicated, and changes to the federal government's programs and allowances have made it a little bit more complicated. The fact that we've been deluged with calls and claims even makes it more frustrating, as you heard from a caller a little bit earlier. So there's a lot of information. I think the bottom line is that because of a federal change, a recent federal change, that independent contractors or gig workers, as a lot of musicians refer to themselves, can apply for unemployment. Our system will be able to accept their claim because we had to change the system at the end of April. So by April 28th, they will be able to apply, and the claim that they can make will be retroactive to when this change went into effect, and I think that was at the end of March. You can send, what we're asking people to do is to send an email to DOES so that as soon as the system update takes effect, they will be emailed to submit their claim.
The email address is P as in Peter, U as in umbrella, A as in apple, so PUA@dc.gov.
And I know we have Director Morris Hughes on the line. Director, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, that we are checking the PUA@dc.gov email probably every 10 or 15 minutes and responding to people that quickly. So feel free to email us, and we will send you any additional guidance. And like the mayor said, a new guide is forthcoming and will be out very, very, very soon.
Thank you for that, Director. So it looks like that's it for our questions for this evening. So we want to, before we kick it back to the mayor to close out the call, we want to thank you all again for being on. We have information, as the mayor said, related to the mayor's order and all of our updates and most up-to-date information and resources available for you at coronavirus.dc.gov. We're also sharing information on the mayor's social media platform, so we hope that you will follow us on all of those. And so we will pass it now to Mayor Bowser to close out our call.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, and I really want to acknowledge all of my teams, the wonderful team here at the Department of Health, who is working with our healthcare providers, but also our residents who have been impacted, who are recovering, and who are in isolation. I want to thank them for that, but also my communications team and public outreach team who are doing an incredible amount of work in keeping our website up to date and getting out as much guidance as fast as we can in ways that are usable. So you have a great team of D.C. government workers who are working for you, and I want to thank you for doing your part. At the start of this conversation, I said that the number of infections that we have in the district is less than what was modeled on this day in April. And if we can continue that flattening, we know that we will be able to save lives in Washington, D.C. and get life back to as normal as it can be as soon as possible. So again, thanks for doing your part. Wear your mask. Stay at home. Wearing a mask, does that mean that you can make more trips? We flatten the curve when we stay at home. So thank you, everybody.